do.
Hey everyone, this is Sage from Vision here with another deck profile, Messianic Lord Blaster. There will be timestamps in the description with parts of interest in the video. Before we get into the video, I'd like to ask you all to give this a thumbs up. Lets us know at Vision if you like the content. But without further delay, let's get on with the video. As with every guide, I have two rules. Rule number 1, read your cards. Rule number 2, have fun playing Vanguard. Hello everyone. At the end of 2019, I saw a video out there that someone was complaining about Messianic Lord Blaster. They faced it in a regional and lost. I thought that was just hilarious, and I saw a couple other videos where people filled in to make the deck just a little bit better and consistent from when it actually came out. So at the beginning of 2020, when the price was still down for Messianic Lord Blaster, I bought the deck from a friend and filled in with Filth Feather Dragon to make it a lot more consistent. And right now, it's one of my go-to fun decks because it can be just one-shotty and really upset your opponent. I really like decks where you can kind of damage deny your opponent to make it a little more frustrating for them to play. And in the summer, we're going to be getting a Majesty Lord Blaster that's going to be retrained for V. And we're going to be getting a Blaster Dark with that as well. So you could possibly have a second win condition coming up soon. All the cards are very good put together. It's just very inconsistent. But it can be an overwhelming deck if you get all the right pieces against your opponent. And then without further ado, let's go into the deck portion of the video. Welcome to the deck portion of the guide. So first, we are going to start off with the grade 4s of the deck. We have 2, Exculpate the Blaster. He's here because his name has Blaster in it. You can superior call it with a few cards. It's really your 7th unit that has Blaster, so anything we get more is going to be put in the deck, of course. His other skill, when you ride him, can be used to finish off if you do need a multi-attack for a finish, or just to wipe their field for tempo, etc. Now we're going to our grade 3s. We have Messianic Lord Blaster himself. He is what makes this deck the deck, and why we run so many Blaster units. You hope you draw this card, and you're going to have massive power and massive criticals when you use him. Also, just know that his keyword is you have to call cards to open rearguard. You do not want to have units that don't have Blaster in their name on rearguard when you swing with him. You hope that everything's open besides the Blaster units you already have. For his powers, we're going to go over him later because he can reach numbers, usually an average of 69k, but it just depends if he's being boosted or if you have Exculpate instead of something else, and I'll just go over that. The next card we have is I run 4 of an Everywhere Paladin deck is Filth Feather Dragon. It's on place, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 3. It is a once per game skill where you draw for every many open rear guards you have and then call that many. Now, you really hope you get Messianic Lord Blaster and a Filth Feather Dragon when you are playing on your first grade 3 turn. So you can just sack out your opponent. Also, just draws you a lot of cards so you can have guard. So nothing to complain about that. Next card we have is Taintless Feather Dragon. Taintless Feather Dragon I use only to call Exculpate. Sometimes if I have to, I could use him to dig for more Blaster units. I can call over himself. So that's why he's in the deck at 1. And the next we're going to go into our grade 2s. We have a Blaster Blade. He's here because his name is Blaster in it. And you don't really want to use his retire skill early because you want the soul for Filth Feather Dragon. If you happen to ride multiple times, you could use Blaster Blade skill. But really, he's just here because his name's Blaster in it. And then next we run 4 Blaster Arrows. Now, her on-play skill we don't use because we don't run Arc Saver Dragon. However, we love her when we have a full board because it basically gives the board resist. And that stops a lot of decks from being able to get rid of your units in a convenient way. And then next, the best grade 2 here is Blaster Rapier. Now, if you have a full field, he gets 15k. That's great. Like if you're actually trying to push, but usually, hopefully, if you have a full field, you're already hitting for big numbers here. Other skill is when you attack, you can scry the top of the deck, top or bottom it. So it's an Oracle skill. It's super needed when your field doesn't have all blaster units, you can possibly superior call. So you can attack with this first. You can swing under the Vanguard for 10,000, and then top or bottom the card, depending if it's a blaster unit or not. Or just psych out your opponent if you really need to. The next card we have is a Blaster Dagger. He's a really good card to have when you have everything because he gives everything boost, but also helps you defensively in case you get multiple of them and your Vanguard hits and you can just pick him back up. So it's not that much risk to have him. And then a really good card is Blaster Javelin. You actually want to put this behind your Vanguard to boost, because when you attack with them, if you have a full blaster board, you can retire one of their interceptors. That's really nice. But he also just gives a little bit of bonus power. That's why we can reach usually an average of 69,000 when you attack with a full field with boost. And the last 2 slots we have here is Cloud Lancer Gamoris. Now, I just use him to put a grade 2 back on top of the deck in case I have it in the drop zone and I need that card on the field. And I can drive check it and call it with Messianic Lord Blaster. Just kind of fodder for that. I usually would call him, put the card on top of the deck, and call a blaster unit over him. So, you know, because you need the blaster units out there. And our last slot we have is Tristan. He's just used to get Blaster Blade. Really, these two are like your prime ride targets. I mean, it's only 2 cards out of the deck, so it's pretty unlikely. But you really want these on your rear guard. So there's that as well. Next, we're going to our trigger lineup. We run 4 heals because it's great shield value, and we love healing in this game. And then next, we run 6 crit. More for the shield value than anything, because most of the time what you're doing with this deck is you're almost damage denying. So hitting a crit optimally isn't that great unless you're trying to have 2 plans of attack on them, and I'll go over strategies soon. Now with draw triggers, I used to run 8 draw to keep digging for more pieces, but it just wasn't enough shield value, so I found 6 crit, 6 draw have the most amount of shield value and draw value possible. Because you do want to draw as many cards as possible early to get your pieces, but you don't want to like sacrifice your shield value for that as well, so you can actually survive. And of course we run a starter Glime. You can run any starter you like, so just feel free with that. And then now we'll get into some strategies, but we'll talk about Force 1 and Force 2. Now, I really want to talk about Force 1 versus Force 2 in this deck. When I first learned about this deck, I was really confused why the person went Force 2. And I actually really understand why now and why it's good. Now, Force 2, of course, increases your original crit to 2. So if you put it on Vanguard, it's just going to give you an extra crit, because that's what it'll do. But remember, this takes the original crit and power of that unit. So if the original crit is now 2 on this, it also gets additional crit from this. You can put Force 2 on rear guards and actually feel pretty good about it, especially under your blaster appears, because if you have a full board, then you'll be fine. Force 1 is good against things where you think you just need a little bit more push in case they draw a lot more. And even on rear guard as well, if you're playing like some long game against some really crazy protect deck, it might be needed. But you might be screwed anyway if you're facing a protect deck. It's just more of a what-if scenario. And the added benefit of always going Force 2 and putting on, let's say, on your Blaster Rapier, if you have one, is you can still swing for 10,000 with it. Under your opponent's Vanguard, probably, because if they're running 12 or 13k Vanguards. And then you can scratch the top of the deck, top or bottom it, leave it on top, swing with this, call it out. Hits for perfect numbers. All right, everybody. Now, what I wanted to go over with now is a real situation. I did pick my first hand so I can have a bricky hand, but what I would ideally like to do in a game, in my game plan to, you know, be my opponent. So I'll just go over a fictitious situation which might happen. So we start a turn. Let's say we go first. We draw off a card. We ride. Oh, that's pretty good. Draw. We end the turn. Our opponent goes, let's say they just deal us 1 damage because they're nice. Oh, draw trigger, draw a card. Right, this is actually looking really good. And then we'll go to grade 2s. It's nice to ride Blaster Blade because it's easy to pick them out of the deck. Attack. Hopefully they have a rear guard to attack. If not, it's fine. You can draw another card. It's really good. And then, let's say our opponent goes again, attacks. Wow, I just hit another draw trigger. This is silly. So, you have a big hand now. You go with this much damage. You go to this turn. Messianic Lord Blaster. Force 2. Field Feather Dragon. Use a skill, Soul Blast 3, Counter Blast 1. You have 4 open rear guards, so you draw 4 cards. Now you have to call 4, so you'll call 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all we can really do here. We have to just hope we hit something good. Now I'll show you what I would do. I would attack with this first without a boost, because let's say you're damage denying your opponent. For 10,000, you look at the top card of your deck. Wow, that's Blaster Blade. You leave it on top. You swing with this. You tell them 23,000, but they might ask how much is it, and you're like, well, it's going to be 69,000. And they just either guard with every card in their hand or a perfect guard, and then you just swing, get a Blaster Blade, call it a rear guard. You have a perfect Zodia board. Second check. Now, either you just win doing 7 damage right there, or now you're just playing a long game with them. Right, not giving them any damage, guarding all their attacks if they attack your rear guard, no guarding your vanguard attack, and you're just going from there. And it's pretty easy from there because you have a resistant board, of course, right? Everything does have boosts in case you need it, and then also you can scry the top card of the deck from now on. So every time you attack with this to their vanguard, you can see, you know, in case there's a heal. Something nice on top of the deck to help you push through in case they're guarding just from raw cards in hand. Alright, and then now I just want to go over numbers, so it may be a little easier to memorize after this video. So without boost, I won't include the boost here. With these units, that does not include Exculpate the Blaster. When you attack, you have 13, right? And then it adds the power of all the units. So 13 plus 10. Plus another 10, plus another 10, so it's 13 plus 30, that's 43, plus the 16 here, 43 plus 16 equals 59. So it's between 59,000 for 6 damage. If you have Force 2, 7 damage, correct? And then you have the boost, which this gives plus 2k on boost. So it'd be 69k. Now, where numbers might get weird is if you don't have a boost, or if you have this boosting instead. Just think about it as, what are you taking in, what are you taking out? For example, now you have Exculpate in and you don't have Blaster Blade. So when you take Exculpate, put Exculpate in, he just has 4,000 more power than Blaster Blade. So you just add 4,000 on top of 69,000. So you end up being 73,000. And same thing, let's say you have Blaster Blade, you don't have a grade 1, just plus, you're taking away this, you're actually adding more power, so you're adding plus 6k, so 69,000, now the difference is 6,000, so 75,000. And just think about it like that. A lot of the time when I just swing, you can just say big number. Sometimes if they have to ask, then you have to do the math, but this is just more for you to know in case that comes up. Pros and cons of the deck. The first pro is damage denying. So you can almost keep your opponent at 0 damage if you wanted to. I've had to do that in some Tachikaze matchups, and it really slows down what your opponent deck wants to do. Another pro is it gets a resistant board through Blaster Arrow, so they can't really get rid of it through conventional ways. And just very frustrating for your opponent. Another thing is, it's being an actual kill turn on turn 3 if your opponent has no sentinels in hand, or if they don't have 20 cards in their hand. Sometimes they may have enough cards to like do 1 to pass, and that's really rough. They pretty much have lost the game at that point. And then this deck also draws a decent amount with the Field Feather Dragon. So a lot of the time you actually have decent guard against your opponent. Now, cons of the deck. It's very, very piece reliant, and it has a lot of brick potential. Of course, when you have a deck that requires all these sorts of things, then that's just going to happen. It's also very weak to rush, but you know, what deck isn't in Vanguard? And Sentinels really hurt this deck. And I'll say that Protect matchups are very rough. You can get around some Protect matchups by just actually going and attacking with everything you have. And you do have options, it just doesn't leave you with the one-shot option that you might think you have against certain other decks. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm trying to keep up with the Vision deck series right now. If you have any questions or critiques, be sure to leave them in the comments and be sure to give a video a thumbs up. I do look at all the comments and try to answer any questions you guys have, or let's say if you have a different build choice you would do. I like to go over that if there actually is one. And make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when a new video comes out. This is Sage from Team Vision, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's all I wanna do.